Hi everyone, Cathy here, and we are back for another session. We are in our wellness pillar, and this is hydration. And if you're new here, awesome. Hi, hello. We always start our wellness and recommendation playlist with positive quotient repetitions, or PQ reps. So if you're sitting, standing, that's fine. Laying down is okay. And I perform these PQ reps for short because they are a way to make sure that our brains are connected to our body. We need to always drop back into our body so that we can feel safe and take in information. So, uh, today's topic, if I didn't say so already, is drinking H2O. H2O can help stop anxiety, but we're gonna again start with our PQ reps. So if you're safe, and only if you feel safe, even if you're alone, you may not like to close your eyes, but I'm gonna close my eyes. Feel free to. And I want you, wherever you're at and whatever, in whatever position you're in, I want you to think about elongating your spine. So make your spine nice and tall. Roll your shoulders back so you have a nice open chest. And without changing your breath, go ahead, get one of your hands and place it on your belly and let the natural rhythm of your breath move your hand. You're not changing anything. You're just curious and noticing what's happening. What sensations are you feeling? What parts of your body are moving? And with that, it's a short one, so let's go ahead and blink our eyes open if you haven't already. So that is a PQ rep. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, why? Like if you were already somewhat in a okay mood, like if your nervous system was somewhat regulated or pretty much at neutral, then you probably didn't feel too much different. If in fact you were, I'm gonna put my silly readers back on. um, Even if in fact, right, you were feeling somewhat nervous, hopefully now you're feeling a little bit more centered. That's the whole point of PQ reps. Okay. Yes, you can get the same effect maybe with some um, pattern breathing and or meditation, but just so you know that anytime you can regulate your nervous system, which is a big reason to always check out these videos, is there are multiple and so many ways to do so. But regulating your nervous system, especially right now in this environment that we're living in, totally necessary and very much in your best interest. Okay. So today's topic, again, we're in our wellness playlist and we are in our hydration pillar. And this is about drinking H2O to help stop anxiety. So I, like probably many of you, I know what it's like, unfortunately, to have a very taxed nervous system. Okay. And more so in the fact that I've always been a nervous type person. And that's for another story. But I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder, general anxiety disorder, back in 2001. And that was quite the eye opener for me. But since then, and I'll just be transparent, over that time period, I've been sent to the ER 3 times. The third one happened just this past January. And I bring that up because it's not about feeling shame about it. It's simply about the fact that there are moments in our lives where we just like overtax quite literally our bodies and our nervous system says, I'm done. I am sitting this out until you decide to listen to me. So one way, okay, to help regulate your nervous system, believe it or not, is to actually drink water. Okay. Now, you were saying, well, that's not going to help me stop anxiety. No, it's not going to necessarily stop it, but it can regulate how quickly you accelerate your own anxiety. So, um, I am a yoga instructor. Okay, so I am a certified yoga instructor, and I get to, because I'm part of Yoga Alliance as a member, I get to attend, different functions that they hold. And one of the online trainings they had was by a psychologist. I believe she's a psychologist, and she's a doctor, a PhD, and she has these wonderful books for children. And she talks about the method that she put together to teach kids, right, how to regulate their nervous systems. And one of the fascinating parts, I won't go into the whole detail, maybe one time I will. I know I did in previous videos a long time ago, but it's really cool because whenever you take a drink, okay, so your autonomic nervous system, right, has two major parts. The parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest, okay, and then which is our calm, you can say it. And then the other side of it, right, is our sympathetic nervous system. And that's the one that everyone thinks about. Unfortunately, all of us, most of us today in this world are living in a, unfortunately, chronic low grade stress. And that is just as harmful as if you're over the cliff in stress, like for a big moment. Low grade chronic stress is what, it's like that whole idea of the thousand cuts, right? It totally starts to degrade, right? All of your systems in your body. So, what I'm getting at is that one of the key little principles that she teaches, this doctor, is how just taking a sip of water forces your nervous system to stop. Okay. And then when you're taking the water, what happens? You switch for sympathetic over to parasympathetic because now your digestion is taking over. It's like your brain realizes, oh, wait a minute, I'm no longer able to freak out on whatever the subject is because I just took a sip of water. Try it right now. Okay, I have water here. So if you're feeling anyway anxious or if I'm making you anxious, take a sip of water. That action just told my body, whatever I was into right before that, I am now digesting something. And so your brain has to immediately click and say, oh, we have to focus on what's ever going down the esophagus. So a sip of water, okay, that this doctor talks about, is enough to tell your nervous system, whoa, it needs to calm down and it needs to pay attention because now you're digesting something. So again, you don't want to take a gulp, okay, because that would actually tax your system. But when you take a little sip, okay, you're telling your body, one, I'm safe. I'm safe enough that I'm drinking something, okay? And the suggestion is not to eat something because that takes a little bit more energy, right? All we're trying to do is tell our nervous system we are okay. And so taking that sip of water, and specifically she talks about water, just because obviously, we're into the whole fitness, health and wellness track here, but it could be literally anything liquid, right? But she specifically said water, and I would agree with that only because um, we don't want to take in anything that has excess sugar at that moment, right? We're trying to calm our nervous system, all right? Um, Hopefully, throughout these different videos that you've watched, you realize, oh, I should have some type of liquid by me, preferably H2O most of the time. So go looking for your H2O and take a sip of it. And then you'll notice that whatever you were possibly, getting anxious about, for at least a moment, you're a little bit more settled. And that sounds too simplistic. But if you start feeling that little prickly feeling, right, that we all feel when we know anxiety is picking up, or maybe we start, feeling the tenseness, reach for your hydration and then go for it. Keep in mind, right, that the temperature, which I just talked about last time, the temperature of your liquid does matter. Um, But let's say you do have a lot of ice in that water, sip it anyway, okay? The act of digestion starts to happen as soon as you take that sip, okay? So, yes, it might be a little too cold for your nervous system, but it also shocks it into, whoa, okay, maybe everything's okay, but now we're digesting something. So, I got to pay attention, right? So, it's a simple little trick, but it's one that I'm sure can mean a lot to you in the moment when you have nothing else going on, or maybe you have to really settle down quick and you're like, if I spiral, I'm in a lot of trouble. Taking a sip of water can be your way back to that more regulated nervous system. And it really is that easy. So, with that, I want to say thank you